Some people count down to their birthday for weeks. They plan parties, expect messages, and wait for the day to feel special. And then there are people like you. You don't really care if the day passes quietly. You might even forget it yourself. You don't need celebration, attention, or reminders that you've grown older. And because of that, others sometimes think you're strange, distant, or even a little cold. But psychology suggests something very different. Not caring much about your birthday is often a sign of deep emotional maturity, independence, and a unique way of seeing life. It's not that you don't value yourself. It's that you don't need a specific day to feel valued. Here are 5 psychological reasons why people who don't care about birthdays often think in a very different and surprisingly healthy way. First, you don't attach your self-worth to external validation. Research in psychology shows that people who rely less on external validation tend to have a more stable sense of self-esteem. For many, birthdays are a moment to feel noticed, appreciated, and reassured that they matter to others. But if you don't feel strongly about birthdays, it often means you don't depend on those signals to feel secure about who you are. You don't need dozens of messages, posts, or calls to feel important. You already know your value without needing it to be publicly confirmed once a year. You may even feel slightly uncomfortable with too much attention, not because you dislike people, but because you don't measure your worth by how loudly others celebrate you. That quiet confidence is a powerful trait. Second, you see time as continuous, not symbolic. For many people, birthdays feel like milestones, a line between the old you and the new you. But people who don't care much about birthdays often don't think in these symbolic terms. Research indicates that individuals with a more reflective and long-term mindset see personal growth as a gradual process, not something that resets every year. You don't feel like a different person just because the calendar changed. You see your life as a continuous journey where growth happens slowly, daily, and quietly. Because of this, a birthday doesn't feel like a big emotional event. It's simply another day in the ongoing story of your life. And this mindset often reduces pressure, comparison, and anxiety about age or achievements. Third, you value depth over ritual. Birthdays are rituals. They are socially agreed moments where people express care in expected ways. But people who don't care much for birthdays often prefer spontaneous, genuine connections over scheduled gestures. Psychology shows that some individuals place higher value on authenticity than tradition. You might feel that a random, heartfelt conversation means more than a forced birthday message. A quiet moment with someone you care about can feel more meaningful than a party planned out of obligation. It's not that you dislike kindness, you just prefer it when it's natural, not calendar-driven. You care more about how people treat you throughout the year than how they treat you on one specific day. Fourth, you are emotionally self-sufficient. Research in emotional resilience suggests that people who are comfortable being alone and not needing constant affirmation tend to develop strong internal emotional resources. If birthdays don't matter much to you, it often means you don't depend on events to feel emotionally fulfilled. You know how to sit with yourself. You know how to make your own days meaningful. You don't wait for special occasions to feel okay. This kind of self-sufficiency can be misunderstood as indifference, but in reality it is a form of quiet strength. You don't need a celebration to remind you that life is worth living. You already feel that in small, everyday moments. Fifth, You are less driven by social expectations. Many people care about birthdays because it's what society tells them to care about. There are expectations, parties, gifts, posts, attention. But psychology shows that people who are less influenced by social norms often think more independently and live more authentically. If you don't feel much about birthdays, it may be because you don't automatically adopt traditions just because everyone else does. You question what really matters to you, and if a birthday doesn't feel important, you don't pretend that it is. This independence of thought is often linked to creativity, self-awareness, and strong personal identity. You live by your internal compass, not by social scripts. And finally, you understand that meaning isn't tied to dates. For many people, birthdays are about feeling that life is meaningful. But for you, meaning isn't concentrated into one day. You find meaning in ordinary days, in quiet routines, in small thoughts, in personal reflections that don't need an audience. Research suggests that people who find significance in everyday life tend to have higher long-term life satisfaction than those who wait for special events to feel fulfilled. You don't wait for one day a year to feel alive. You already feel connected to your life, even in the most normal moments. So if you've ever felt different because you don't really care about birthdays, understand this: you are not cold, you are not ungrateful, you are not strange. You simply have a calmer, deeper, and more independent way of relating to time, to people, and to yourself. You don't need the spotlight to know you exist. You don't need a celebration to know you matter. And that quiet understanding is something many people spend years trying to develop. If this way of thinking felt familiar to you, it's likely that you have a thoughtful and emotionally mature personality that sees life in a very grounded way. If you enjoyed this insight and want to discover more hidden traits about your personality, subscribe to the channel for more psychology insights that help you understand yourself on a deeper level.